So here we are. Hi.
Yeah. Anjali Bhimani, this is very exciting to have an opportunity to chat with you today. You've got a lot of projects going on that have been coming out, and I kind of want to go back a little bit to the beginning of kind of getting into the world of video games. So it seemed like you
Sure.
had kind of your debut with Fallout 4 in 2015, seemed like a real big moment, but was it before that? Did you have other opportunities?
So I actually started recording Overwatch before that.
Oh,
So
okay.
Overwatch was really the first one the first video game that I booked, which if you're going to book a first video game, that's a pretty great one that's tremendous luck. But yes, that was the first, Fallout I think was the first one that came out, Nuka World. But I had been gaming. I started gaming when I was a little girl. I was a tabletop gamer from age 8. My brother got me the D&D starter set and I was off to the races. And then probably around high school, I started playing RPGs on the computer. And I would venture to say that I stopped computer gaming in maybe like 2002 or three, for some ridiculous reason that I can't remember. And thankfully, I've come back to it. But now I've come back to it from the other side.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. So I'm curious. I'm assuming, obviously before this, you're booking a lot of television roles. You're in front of the camera. So how
Mhm.
does an opportunity to work in video games, doing voiceover work and that type of performance come your way?
Well, I wish it was a sexier story, Adam, but it's just auditions from my agent. My voiceover agents had started to send me copy for different voiceover auditions. In fact, the very first one I booked was right before Overwatch, which was like a Tosh.0 disclaimer in Hindi, which was interesting because I don't speak Hindi, but I learned it for that day. And so that's basically it. Like the auditions just started coming through. Most of my career, Adam, with the exception of when I first started in theater, most of my career has been a series of, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Thank you for submitting me. That's awesome. Let's try it. And sometimes going with that, not even knowing if it was something that I could do. I remember being sent out on an audition for an opera. And I was like, well, okay, here we go. I mean, I'm a singer, but who knows? And ended up getting to do that. So it's been just a series of reminding myself that it's not my job to discount myself. Let them decide if they want me or they don't want me. But it's not my job to say no unless I don't want to do the job.
So getting back to your early days of gaming, you're talking about tabletop gaming. My older brother, that he was definitely in the world of D&D, like back in the 80s. I mean, he was real
Yep.
deep into that. But then in high school, my friends got into, the RPGs and things like that. And I actually got kicked out for being a little too out there, getting in on a
Oh,
campaign with them. They're like, you can't play anymore. But you're talking about
what
that.
on earth were you doing that got you kicked off your campaign? I'm dying to know.
I know, dare I say, my friend actually just recounted the experience on his podcast, but
Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna have to get that link from you because I
I'll
want to
send
find
it
out because now
over.
I'm curious.
But the thing I want is, you're talking about being a theater kid, about performing
Mhm.
and things like that. What do you think it is about the role play game experience that really does seem to gather, people that have that bent, that have that interest?
Oh gosh, well it's very very clear. I mean, role playing games especially, but tabletop in general. So much of it is long form improv, which is instead of getting the suggestions from the audience, you're getting the suggestions from your game master, and the dice are deciding whether or not you can actually do the thing that you do. So it's all collaborative storytelling, which is essentially what theater, film, voiceover, video games, like that's what it all is. It's all some form of collaborative storytelling. And then you take these tabletop role playing games and it takes it a step further because not only is it collaborative storytelling, but it's the combination of the improvised collaborative storytelling and just telling a story. In TV and film and voiceover, more often than not, it is scripted. And so you don't necessarily have ownership of the story and the characters. You sort of slot yourself in and use your skills to be able to fit into a story that is already existing. More often than not, there are some exceptions, obviously. But in the TTRPG world, you are as much the author, the writer, the director, all of those things. You are as much a part of it as anyone else. And so it really is this wonderful, dare I say, transcendent experience to watch how the story develops. And you know, some of the TTRPGs that I've played, particularly the ones that have been you know, publicly streamed, we couldn't have written the endings the way that they ended, because the dice gave us the challenges. You know, there might be someone who's got a incredible strength score or incredible wisdom score, but it doesn't matter, they rolled crap, and now we got to figure out how that translates into the story. And that to me is very, very exciting. It's as much it's as exciting for us who are playing it as hopefully it is for people who are watching.
Yeah, and my curiosity for you as a player is, so
Mm-hmm.
what my friend brought up to me, he's like, "We didn't know you had this in you," because I'm not playing with my own morality. I'm not playing as myself. I'm playing as a character. And so when you play, do
Yeah.
you try to align yourself with a character that's going to be more like you, or do you like to go outside?
You know, it's funny you should ask that. Specifically with the shows that I have done that everyone has seen, or that a lot of people have seen. Not everyone. I don't expect everyone to see them, but specifically with those, um, I feel like the characters are sort of what I would hope I would be in those circumstances, or at least a good portion of them. Um, but I have definitely been yearning for slash leaning toward experimenting with characters on the dark side, shall we say, or just characters who are just not, that just don't necessarily have my vibe. So far, I have tended to lean into characters who are very good at what they do, who are very effective in their lives. I think the first one that I played that bucked that norm was Lady Amango in the D20 season, the Ravening War that Matt did, which was the Crown of Candy prequel. And for her, it was a character who was very effective in the world that she started in, but at the very beginning of the campaign, she was getting launched out of that world. And so that, and then seeing just what she would do to scramble to survive herself, and who would she throw under the bus, and who would she protect, and how does that happen when it's someone who has good morals and theoretically good decision making skills, but ultimately she has her priorities. So that was very exciting to me to do that. So now, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but I think it's time for me to play an asshole. I think it's time for me to play someone who, either someone who has no filter, much like one of my video game characters, Rampart, or someone who is morally ambiguous. I have a couple of games coming up right now, one in particular coming up right now, where I think I'm going to experiment with that a little bit.
Very fun. Now, one of the role play games that you got to promote at San Diego Comic Con this last year was
Yes.
Candela Obscura from Critical Role.
Yes.
I am so curious, what was it like just participating in that game itself, and then to bring it to Comic Con in front of all those people?
Well, I mean, first of all, anytime I get to play with my friends at Critical Role is just joy upon joy upon joy. It's such a wonderful environment. The people behind the camera and the people on camera. It's just an embarrassment of riches. But this game system in particular was so exciting to be a part of, because it's a brand new game system that they had created and something new from them, and I wanted to support what they were bringing to the world. But also because this new game system that they created is, I feel like it's more accessible than a lot of other game systems, in that it's easier to pick up. It's a simpler set of mechanics, and those mechanics I think are much more geared toward leaning into the storytelling vibe of role playing games, rather than necessarily focusing on the mechanics. The mechanics are useful, but they are tools to an end. They are means to an end, right? And also, I said this at the Comic Con panel. I traditionally am not a huge horror fan in general. It's not the genre that I love to watch movies in. I like thrillers, but not horror movies. But what I love so much about Candela Obscura is that I call it horror with hope. That there is a win scenario. You know, someone brought up that normally in horror, the main character is the bad guy. That's the person you know, or the person, or the creature you know is going to continue on for all the sequels. But you don't know that the characters are going to continue on for all the sequels. They could all die, and that would go on. Whereas in this one, the goal is to keep your characters alive. Whether you do or you do not is the big question. But that's definitely the goal, is to keep those to keep that afloat and to keep that party afloat, or in the case of Candela Obscura, that circle afloat, circle of investigators. So it was just, I mean, I love being a part of anything that they create, and they're so great at developing so many new and innovative things. Going with them to Comic-Con was just, I mean, come on, it's just like a giant party. It just like, I love it so much. I love it so much there already, you know, because I've been a few times with Overwatch and with other things. But getting to share this with them this year was a new treat. And I got to get the audience to sing "Happy Birthday" to my brother, because his birthday was the day that we were having our panel, and since he's the responsible party for me being involved in RPGs, I feel like he deserved it. So that
That's
was
so
really cool.
great.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that's coming out this week as we're speaking, just as of
Yes.
yesterday,
Yes.
you're appearing as Medusa in this game Stray
Yes.
Gods, which the premise got me so excited. Again, okay, you got romance, murder, and musical numbers.
Yes.
So what was
Yes.
your initial response upon hearing the concept, and what got you to jump in on this
Okay,
project?
well, first of all, I didn't hear the concept before I said yes, and this is
Oh,
why. Because I got a text from Troy asking, "Can I sing?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want? Up tempo, ballad? What do you need? Musical theater? You need rock? Tell me what you need." And Troy is one of those people, much like the folks at Critical Role, where if he asks, "Hey, can you be a part of something?" immediately I will say yes, and then I'll ask questions later because I trust him so much. And sure enough, when the offer came in and I saw exactly what it was, I was like, my head exploded with excitement, because here we are combining three of my favorite things in the whole world, combining musicals, combining video games, well, actually four things: video games, specifically role-playing games, and mythology. I've been a huge mythology, I don't want to say fan, but a buff since I was a child. You know, when I was growing up, I learned Indian mythology from these comic books that you can get in India called Amar Chitrakatha. So the gods and the goddesses were like my superheroes because I was reading them in these comic books. And then I took in Norse mythology and Sumerian mythology and just every bit that I could get my hands on. I even wrote, I think in the seventh grade, I wrote a Norse myth, my own little Norse myth about this yeah, this fisherman named Sven Svensson, which is hilarious because it's such an original name. But yeah, so when I heard all of it put together, I was just thrilled. I had no idea how it was going to be done. But the lovely thing that this entire career has trained me for, and really, this is one of the many things that I'm grateful to my career for teaching me about life, is I am very comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm very comfortable in a situation where I'm like, I have no idea what's about to happen, but here we all go because we're trying to do the best together, and let's find out what's going to happen. And I was in incredible hands. You know, I was walking into a studio with Austin Wintry as the composer. I mean, just the music from Journey alone is so gorgeous, let alone his entire body of work. With David Gator as the creative director, and he was just like a giant source of light. And then, of course, Troy, who is not only an exceptional actor, but as a voice director, he is so insightful and incisive with his direction. Like he's very almost surgical with the way he goes in, and knows how to talk to actors in a way that we can actually understand and turn into a playable action. A lot of times there's a disparity between what a director communicates and what an actor is able to take in and play, because a lot of directors don't have that experience, and just maybe have a little bit of difficulty communicating what they want with the actor. A great director obviously does not have that problem, but sometimes they do. And I mean, that obviously, like, Troy just knows. He just knows. So as soon as I walked into that studio, I knew this is a place to play. They had sent me the music ahead of time, and it sounded nothing like the music that we were going to end up with in the final project.
hmm.
It was like plunked out on piano with a dude singing it. And so I listened to it. I looked at the lyrics. I essentially learned, you know, as much of it as I could. I knew I didn't have to memorize it, thank God, because we'd be in the studio. But that's when I got to play with what do I think this character is going to sound like? And again, I mean, I'm playing Medusa, which is a very, like, what an iconic character from mythology. And so I really wanted to lean into something different with her. And they gave me the leeway to do it. So those of you who play through the game, you will hear her, and hopefully you will enjoy her as much as I enjoyed playing her.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer and man, it looks like a real fun adventure.
Oh,
Absolutely. But
yeah,
going
and
back
it's I should let people know too. This is something that I love about the game. It is very light lifting. For those of you who aren't gamers but are interested in gaming but feel like maybe like a first person shooter is way too hard for me. I know. I can't play Overwatch or Apex Legends to save my life. You know, I can't even get past the training module in Apex. But this is very low lifting because it really is just about choosing next steps for your character and then seeing how the music and the narrative changes based on your choices. So it's a ride that you get to control, but you're not in charge of, if that makes sense. Like you have to worry about like, oh crap, well now I made a decision and this guy just shot me from behind like that. There's a lot more to it than that.
and it sounds like that is kind of the way things are going. Like you're saying with Candela Obscura and this, it's
Mm-hmm.
a situation where they're trying to make it more accessible. And that is kind of the question I have for you. You mentioned this like not quite knowing where your career is going to take you, what opportunities are going to come your way. So obviously, though, video games are just becoming a huge part of entertainment these
Yeah.
days. And just has been growing and growing over the decades. So what do you feel is going to be the place of kind of this digitally crafted interactive style of storytelling? Do you feel that at some point it will ever maybe overtake in popularity just the standard, traditional live, actor dramatic presentation that we
Mm-hmm.
see captured on film? Or
I mean, look, games that have mocap, like look at The Last of Us, right? Now, the game itself is an extraordinary, it's like an extraordinary film, right? It's like an extraordinary series, so extraordinary that it was made into a series that was completely different, but still the same. You know what I mean? That those two mediums were able to tell the same story in a completely different way. So I do think that right now they are already very similar. How do I put this? They both have their own power and they both have their own unique power. And as long as people keep understanding that when you make an adaptation, whether it's a book to a musical or a video game to a television show or a movie to a book or whatever it is, whenever you make an adaptation, the only reason, in my opinion, to adapt something to a new medium is because you have a different way you want to tell that story. Because each one of them has its pros and cons in terms of the ability to tell a story a certain way, and it has a different set of tools. They're all related languages, but slightly different. You know, it's like taking all the Romance languages. They have their root in Latin, but they're completely different languages that have completely different virtues with completely different people. So do I think they're going to overtake them in terms of pushing them out? No. I think that each medium will continue. Look, theater has survived, the fall of the Roman Empire. Theater's been here forever. Live storytelling, there will never be a substitute for human storytelling. However, there is also room for all of the new things that we are discovering through technology. And I'm really excited about crossing the streams, even though the Ghostbusters told us not to. I'm really excited about our ability to cross the streams in ways that are innovative and just exciting. I know my friend Jen Cohn from Overwatch. She just did a performance of Hamlet in the virtual reality world of GTA, and it was a huge success, and they won some award in England because of it. It's just, but who would have thought to do theater in VR, right? Someone did, and someone thought, cool, how can we use these different ways to access a different group of people and tell them stories? So in my dream world, which I think is very close to reality in terms of this, I really do think that no one medium has to push another one out, as long as we understand that each one has its own virtues. And as long as we highlight those virtues. If you are making the exact same thing in two places, why? Why spend the time and the money and the effort? Why would people spend the time and the money and the effort to take those in? I think it's important to celebrate the difference between them all.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. So as we close out here, just, we're talking about fantasy realms, we're talking about, creating our own universe and characters and things like that. For you, is there a character, whether it's from existing mythology or even one you've created in a campaign from way back when, that
Okay.
you would love to see adapted to any particular medium? Is there that you would like to play that role? Can you think of something that you're like, oh, I could see actually
God, there's so
expanding it?
many. I mean, I'll look, all of my TTRPG characters, I would love to play them on television or film because they are already in that world where that is a possibility, right? The first thing that leapt to mind, honestly, is in EXU, in Exandria Unlimited, I play a character named Fiera Rai, who has a twin sister named Fiera Kai. Now, we haven't really met Fiera Kai. We've seen her, but we haven't really met her in the EXU universe. But she actually came from a one shot that I did for charity with a fellow named Andrew Strother for Roll for Persuasion. And I would love a chance to play both of them, either on film or on television, because spoiler alert, they are vastly different human beings. They are twins, but they are vastly different human beings. And I'm actually really hoping that we get a chance to meet her, because obviously, Abria as the DM or whoever is DMing would be the person to play that character in a TTRPG. But yeah, I think that would be exceptionally fun. Plus, we would have to figure out how on earth are we going to represent a person whose hair is made of fire? Like, I think that would be really cool. So that would be awesome. I also very much love the character that I played in Undeadwood, Miriam, and the character I played in We're Alive Frontier, which was the first TTRPG show I did back when Geek and Sundry was doing those. And really, really, really have like a soft spot in my heart for those. And then finally, I do I want this? I kind of wouldn't mind seeing my one of my characters. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed. I think I'm allowed to talk about this during the strike. There's a character I play in a show from a big old company that rhymes with Harville, and I would love to see that character in one of my tabletop role playing games. In fact, I might run a one shot just to put her in a TTRPG. That might be the way to do it, like in my own home game.
Well, here's hoping at least one of those projects comes to the fore for you and you get to live out that
Yeah.
dream. But it's been great talking to you. And hey, good luck with all these awesome projects that are coming up.
Thank
I'm sure a
you
lot of people
so
are going
much.
to find them.
And thank you so much for your enthusiasm. You are an excellent host. It's really fun to get to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks.